engage in a better reading of the Quran. I've always been afraid I would have misimpressions from another mythology. That's a tough one. I almost feel like I could try to.
You answer.
This is tough because I almost want to just tell you how I relate to this question when I read the Bible and I see a lot of what seems to be legend or mythology. Brian, I'm like, okay, I've seen this one before. And so when I get into the Quran and I'm reading and I see something that looks very similar to what I already see that I know is legend or something like that, or mythology, I'm like, this is hard for me not to think, hey, this is also, maybe the author didn't realize. Like, I'll give you an example.
Hey, Keegan.
Genesis in the Bible.
Londa, welcome.
Academics, even Christians today go, all right, this is mythology. Like, there's obvious origin myth here, and it seems like Mesopotamia influenced the biblical authors in some way. How, we aren't certain, but it happened. Okay, the New Testament authors and Jesus himself and Paul, etc., they're not reading Genesis that way. They don't understand this as mythology.
Thanks for liking the live. Like the live, share it with at least 10 people. Let's get some interesting conversations on here about Islam and what there is to like.
Really is true. Adam was the literal first man, etc., etc. Then I get down into the Quran, let's say, and then let's say it's talking about Adam. What do I do with this? I think that they aren't aware that this is mythology. Correct me if I'm wrong in reading this question, but it seems like that's the approach.
Yeah, I think that's a useful way of thinking about it. I mean, ultimately, so I think I really like, and I'm not sure how you feel about this.
Mawens, welcome.
I think we need to reclaim the term mythology.
I'm looking for Muslims telling me what's good about Islam and that I can
existed or not, right? Or whether you believe Adam
think about.
Existed or not, we must consider
Comment on.
it's a mythological figure in the sense that we cannot find historical evidence for any of that being true, right? We can believe that people believed it. We can believe that people transmitted that, but ultimately that is mythology, and that's, I mean, that doesn't mean you don't need to, you can't believe it, but you have to be honest about what part is history and what part is mythology, and mythology has such a negative terms, like as if funny.
It's a lie.
No, but it's exactly. It's not necessarily about whether it's a lie. It's about whether it's demonstrably true, and that's just, or even demonstrably plausible historically. And it's like, no, it's you can't make any claim like that. No.
Well, I'm with you, and I find value in stories. So maybe we need to this prejudice that you're talking about in this question. I think we should try to at the very least, try to glean what is this author trying to say.
Today I will just be on for an hour.
Try not to carry the baggage of in its original context, we know the ancient Near East. Okay, let's not try. Let's try to think in Arabia. What kind of clues can we have to maybe understand what the author's intent is? What are they trying to say? Yeah. And that's a tough one. Good question though. Inquisitive Mind, do you think Uthman banning the 7 Ahruf Muhammad started due to 2 arguments violates the Islamic doctrine of infallibility of the Prophet, meaning when it comes to religion, Muhammad can't make mistakes?
I don't know.
I would say yes. The question is, do you think Uthman banning the 7 Ahrufs that Muhammad started due to arguments violates the Islamic doctrine of the infallibility of the Prophet? Meaning when it comes to religion, Muhammad can't make mistakes, yes. So I think it's true, but I can see how people can interpret it otherwise. It's just an opinion, right? Just like yours. Eeyore Witch. Are you down like Eeyore? I do like Winnie the Pooh.
I mean, that sort of doctrine of Muhammad being infallible, that's one question. The question of the Quran being revealed in multiple ways, is that a mistake, is another question. So unpacking that is a very, very deep theological question, which I think is very, to be left to Muslims to ponder if they want to, but not necessarily, something we can give an answer to in a sense that helps us at all. One more question, then we're going to call it.
Yeah, it's not like a decisive answer that you can give on the thing. It's purely opinion.
Okay, do these two readings contradict?
Ajapta and Ajaptu? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so Marijn van Putten can read Arabic.
It's a first person singular or a second person masculine form of the verb. And you get this, but I find...
Can they contradict was the question, and he says yes. After thinking a bit.
I find, you get these things, like every now and then we have direct quotes in the Quran of, someone said something or something else, and we get two different readings. It's like, which one did they actually historically say? Some stories get retold multiple times within the Quran, even if there isn't a variant reading.
Right.
And, the same person is saying something different. But clearly, is the Quran talking about...
Do any Muslims know what the purpose of that is? Why this repetitive thing going through in the Quran?
I mean...
Just to keep the poetry there?
There's this assumption that the Quran is necessarily, literally quoting historically what these people said, what Moses said, what Pharaoh said. It's like, well, I mean, that is clearly contradicted by what the Quran itself does, right? So clearly the Quran, whoever the composer was not interested in this, right? It was about the meaning of the story, what it was about. It's not supposed to be a tape recording of what they literally said. And the Quran doesn't claim it is, right? It doesn't go like, I'm the holy book and I'm a tape recording of everything that Pharaoh and Moses said. And so why are we assuming it is? So that's how I would go about that. Yeah.
I first of all, I want to say thank you, because I appreciate this approach. I think that's where it comes up. It's like when I'm reading the Gospels, I'm going to use an analogy in the Gospels. I really wonder if these authors...
I'm finishing a listening of earlier.
Expected, and maybe they did because they're good. This is what people did. They know what they're doing. But if they actually thought this really happened this way, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But the readers later, they took it that way. And so is the author of the Quran literally believing what he's saying is what actually happened, or is he writing something, giving meaning in a certain way that speaks to his audience?
It's spiritually true, right? So that's what it comes down to. Is it literal truth or spiritual truth? I think you can find spiritual truth in the Quran without even with contradictions. But I think they're born contradictions. Like what an interesting contradiction is when two different parts of the Quran say something totally different or prescribe something totally different. And even that, the Islamic tradition has found ways around to explain. So.
Yeah, you can explain anything.
One more, but
you can explain anything.
But this was the last one, and I don't know if there's a quick answer.
Oh, yeah. I'll do this one. Yeah. When does Allah first appear in history? Oh, that's a good question.
When does Allah first appear in history?
Well, before Islam, for sure, which is not a surprise, of course. I mean, the name has to come from somewhere.
Before Islam, yeah.
So I suppose the first time we see the name is in the ancient North Arabian inscriptions. It's not very common, but in the Safavidic inscriptions from, say, southern Jordan, so this is the first millennium BC-ish, like late first millennium BC, or I don't know, I never know when I turn around with the BC stuff, I get confused. But, closer to the year zero than away from the year zero. They started invoking Allah. As a god, as a pagan god, along with other gods.
Interesting.
And the Nabateans, the Nabatean kingdom, that's 400 BCE until 106, if I get it right, have a bunch of people who are called Amatullah, Abdullah, etc. Clearly, their names are, the slave of Allah. So that's where he shows up. And then
before Islam, Nabateans.
A couple of pre-Islamic inscriptions much closer to the time of the Quran in the Hijaz, and he's being called Allah. And then they're quite clearly talking about a monotheistic God, which is not clear with the Nabateans or the Safavidic people, because they were pagans and they seem to be invoking a god, and we don't know if they're talking about the God. It's not clear if they understood Allah as the God of the Bible, because they never say Allah, the God of Moses or whatever. They just talk about Allah. So we don't know. is that we have a bunch of like...
I'm looking for Muslims to tell me what's good about Islam.
6th century, so late pre-Islamic inscriptions. Which
so that I can see if I agree or not.
Crosses and everything, and invoke a god, and they never invoke Allah. They call him El-Ilah, which literally means the God, right? Good translation of the Greek, Hotheos. The name Allah probably comes from El-Ilah, but it is a slightly different term. And it's very clear that they're using specifically El-Ilah and not using Allah. And so the question is, and then in the Hijaz, before Islam, you start seeing the name Allah show up, including monotheistic contexts. Is that the same God? Was that a difference between like general God worshippers who call him Allah and specifically Christians who call him El-Ilah? More time will tell until we find more inscriptions and more information.
This has been a blast. Everybody who's watching, check out Marijn's book. He actually published. It is on Amazon, of course, if you want to buy the hardcover.
Okay, I'm going to kill his live. Nothing happening here.
From the website here, brill.com. The link should be in the description.
Killing the live, and I'm going to make
it for free on PDF,
videos instead.
Which means
because it's slow.
It's not going to cost you